This is his attorney. That I checked his bar card. It is active, and he is a legitimate lawyer here in the state of California.
Yo, his chains and his outfit, yo.
What's your name?
I know.
Ray Woods.
Ray Woods. Attorney Woods, if you would just be quiet and listen for a couple minutes here, I'll give you a... Have you had an opportunity to speak to your client before he came in here?
No, sir.
All right. Listen closely to the purpose of this hearing is what's called a preliminary hearing. Mr. Rivers, I have to make two determinations here today. One is to determine whether or not the police had probable cause to make an arrest for felon in possession with a firearm. And two, to determine whether or not bail, incarceration, or some other disposition is appropriate based on these charges. Do you understand that, Mr. Rivers?
Yes, Your Honor.
Normally, I do not allow attorneys in here because you are not forced to testify if you choose not to say anything on your own behalf. But I'm going to let your attorney here for the time being, just in case I do want to ask you any questions after we're done. Do you understand that, Mr. Rivers?
Yes, Your Honor.
All right. Officer Parker, do you want to explain to me what happened tonight and what brought Mr. Rivers in here?
So me and Officer Nicely here, we're leaving MRPD. We heard shots ring out from the location of 745. We went to investigate. A guy in a blue sports car pulled up after we were already on scene. He ran inside. A second later, he runs out telling us there's a body inside. So we already heard shots, and it was confirmed the body was inside. We made entry. We found Mr. Rivers and Mr. Woods firing off a weapon inside of the range. They both were in possession of a firearm, but both of their names were ran, and this guy came back as a felon.
Okay, so your probable cause, of course, was you heard shots fired and someone you don't know who came out and told you that there was a body inside.
Wait, I'm pretty sure the guy that came out and told us is now in a holding cell.
Okay, and you did not charge Mr. Rivers for the body or anything to do with the body. He was very simply, to the best of your knowledge, in the range, firing shots. However, because of his past felonies, he's not allowed to own a firearm. Is that correct, Officer
That
Parker?
is correct. We haven't made our investigation, but I'm sure Nicely has grabbed the drive, the CCTV, if you want to pass that to him.
Yes, so you want it now, Judge?
No, that's something you guys need to review, and you guys need to figure that out and bring it to us.
That'll go
Alright,
through
cool,
the
cool.
district attorney's
Cool.
office, and she'll meet with you if additional charges are going to be filed.
Alright, cool.
And she'll deal with that outside of here. Mr. Rivers, for purposes of today's hearing, I am going to find that the officers had probable cause to search you, and after making a determination that you are a felon in possession of a firearm, that is an appropriate charge to proceed to further court. Do you understand that, Mr. Rivers?
Yes, sir.
All right. Now, with that being said, and your attorney can advise you whether or not you should make a statement, but I want you to understand you have an absolute right to remain silent, and that anything you say may be used against you at a future hearing if the district attorney chooses to do that. Do you understand that?
Yes, Your Honor.
All right. Is there anything you'd like to tell me on your own behalf? And Attorney Woods, would you be willing to advise your client to make a statement before I determine bail or incarceration? Or is there anything you'd like to say on behalf of your client before I make that determination?
I would just like to point out, I mean, he was very compliant. You know, he didn't hold bars, you know, anything like that per se. I mean, I get it. He's a felon, can't be in possession of a firearm. But legally, it was at fault with both him and the company that we were at that he was in possession of a firearm. They did not, in fact, check their identification and look at his name. So I was talking to these officers, hopefully trying to either, you know, possibly just give him a slight release, you know, give him a fine, you know, court date, all that good stuff. Yeah.
All right. Is there anything you would like to say, Mr. Nicely, or are you happy with the representation from Mr. Woods?
I am happy with the representation from Mr. Woods, Your Honor.
I'm sorry, Your Honor. May I just say one quick thing, if you don't mind?
Go ahead.
So just be aware of his past record. He's very well known to law enforcement. He has multiple, at least a dozen felonies. Just be aware that he has been arrested in the past for felon in possession of a firearm. So he is fully aware and knows that he's not supposed to have a firearm. He's been informed several times, which is here on record.
I
as
understand
well.
that. I thought it was.
Hold on a second. Hold 1 second, sir. You can say anything after that you want, sir.
Okay.
Also be aware, he's new back into the area. Last time he was in the area, he was arrested, looks like 5 times in one day. And yeah, that's all I have, sir.
I appreciate that. Madam District Attorney,
Yes, Your Honor.
I have a feeling that we should probably make this young man an assistant DA. That was a pretty good case. However, that being said, Mr. Rivers, this is the first time I've ever seen you, and I try to make it a point to cut people a break the first time I see them. My initial notes here before your attorney spoke were that I was going to give you $5,000 bail, 10%, which means you would have to post $500. However, after listening to the court officer recite your past history, I'm hesitant to give you bail. Because it sounds to me like you've been around the block a couple of times, Mr. Rivers.
Hey, yo,
You
what?
haven't seen me before.
Okay.
Mr. Woods, what do you have to say about the past criminal history of this defendant?
Yeah. I necessarily didn't know about all that criminal history. I haven't, like I said, I haven't had time to talk to my client. I was just at the gun range at the time. You know, I don't necessarily know this person. You know, I was trying to help him out, hopefully cut him a break. I mean, he was in a safe space. He didn't use it against somebody, but, you know, I understand due to the fact of his record.
All right, here's what I'm going to do, Mr. Woods. Based on your past criminal history, and because I've never seen you before, I am, in fact, going to cut you a break. A little small.
Hey.
Facility
Okay.
to begin immediately. Because of your past criminal history, my concern with bail is that you may not learn. You cannot possess a firearm in the state of California, Mr. Rivers. And that sentence is to begin immediately by the court.
I understand that, sir, but I thought I would, would have been okay in a private property, which I was allowed in and paid to go in. So I wasn't actually aware that I wasn't allowed to have it at all. I just thought I wasn't allowed to own one. But the weapon that I had was, in fact, rented from the establishment that I was at.
Yeah, and I would like to know who the owner of that establishment is, because they should be checking before you come in.
Oh yeah, that definitely needs to be investigated.
Yeah, I would ask LAPD to look into who owns that and how those people gave Mr. Rivers a firearm. I'll tell you what, Mr. Rivers, you talked a good game. I'll cut your sentence down to a month. If I see you again, Mr. Rivers, I'm going to hammer you. You understand that?
I understand.
Mr. Woods, I'd like to talk to you after this hearing is over, if you could stay here for a minute.
Oh,
By the court.
Oh, whoops, accident. Sorry. All right, so you're all set, Parker. If you'd like to go
All right.
ahead, you can put him in a cell, get him jailed.
Mm-hmm.
All right. You guys are good to go nicely. You're good to go, sir.
All right, y'all be safe.
All right, Moody.
Bro. Or it's like, honestly,